Okay, so hello everyone. Today we're going to have a writing class, and the essay type is going to be double question. So it's not very common nowadays, especially in academic IELTS. It's more typical for general IELTS. However, this is one of the 5 types of IELTS essays that you can come across during the exam. So a double question essay is, well, there is some kind of statement, and then there are 2 questions. Well, basically, problems and solutions, it's also a double question. What are the problems? What are the solutions? But sometimes these questions are just independent. I mean, it's not advantages and disadvantages, problems and solutions, but 2 other types of questions. All right. Please don't forget to turn off your microphone when you join the class. All right, and the topic today is about computer technology. The topic is, we're becoming increasingly dependent on computer-based technology. How do you think it will change in the future? Is it good for us to rely so much on computers? All right, so can I ask you to write a few ideas that come to your mind? Let's just brainstorm some ideas. So how do you think it will change? So our dependence on computer technology in the future, and is it good for us to rely? Just short ideas, you don't have to write complete sentences. Let's just brainstorm our ideas that we might use later during the essay. Okay, so dependence will be expanded, all right. All bank system refers to computer system, okay. So lots of money, lots of people's money is, because, well, money is singular, is virtual, okay? So we depend on computers technology financially as well. We will have connection between mind and computer, okay? Right. Why not? Management social systems refer to computer, okay? We will be ruled by computers, studying online. Okay, we will study online more. Yes, distance learning will probably enhance, it will expand, extend, improve, develop. Well, Vitaly can say lots of, one of these options. Lots of services, car service, are ruled by computer. Okay. So we will have The development of online business. Okay, online business is about to develop, right? We will be dependent on internet connection. Okay, well, hopefully we will not. I hope that internet connection will be fine throughout the world. And then, for example, personally, as an online teacher, I'll be able to travel to different corners of the world without being afraid that my students will not be able to hear me because of bad connection. For example, now I'm in Novgorod, not in St. Petersburg, and I was looking for a flat with good internet connection, which was not so easy because it's a small town. Okay, transport system, education, economics, everything will be based on computer systems. YouTube is more popular than TV. Okay, if we're talking about future, then will be, but it already is. Yes, maybe it's true. All right, so YouTube has an opportunity to rule people, I mean, propaganda. All right. Then everyone will have a chance. The more subscribers you have, the more chances you will have to rule the world. So let's move on to writing the introduction. Once again, for those who have joined us, the topic is we're becoming increasingly dependent on computer-based technology. How do you think it will change in the future? And is it good for us to rely so much on computers? So in the introduction, I will remind you, normally we write the general statement, then we paraphrase the task. By task, I mean this. And then we need to write an outline, which will express your opinion, because it's how do you think is the question. Right, so my example is right here. It would be difficult to imagine life without computers. Over recent years in particular, their use and potential have grown at an incredible rate, and I wholeheartedly believe that this growth will continue as more innovative ways to use them are developed. Although there are definitely some downsides to their use, I do believe that positives outweigh the negatives. Okay, so here you have a general statement, a kind of paraphrase, and then with a complex sentence that expresses my opinion. There is something that Natalia wrote. Let me come. That's it. People's communication will move to the internet. Okay, it already has to some extent, up to a point. Now you have about 5 minutes to write your introductions. All right. For those who have joined us, please turn off the microphone. We're writing an essay on the topic we're becoming increasingly dependent on computer-based technology. How do you think it will change in the future? Is it good for us to rely so much on computers? Okay, here's an example of an introduction. You have 5 minutes to write it, and please copy your answers in the chat box. All right, so let's look at Ivan's introduction. It is true that high technological products play a crucial role. Okay. In the modern world, it seems reasonable to assume that dependence on computers will be greatly increased in a couple of decades. However, I think that we humans must be careful relying on high-tech products. Okay, maybe my recommendation here would be to replace I think to something else, because I think is a very simple construction. You could say I'm convinced or I tend to think, something like that. It will sound a bit more complex. So it's not a problem to say I think, but you can make something more complex to make it sound more academic. Yes, something like this. All right, so let's look at Vitaly's variant. So nowadays, it would be difficult to imagine a person who has never used a computer. In this regard, computers are becoming addicted. Many people are becoming addicted to computers, or you could say computers are becoming addictive for many people. But it would sound more natural if you said many people or a number of people are or increasing number of people, it means more and more people, increasing number of people are becoming addicted to computers. However, I'm utterly convinced, wonderful, I'm utterly convinced there are lots of advantages of using computers. Advantages of using computers, and it's better to say that. So I'm utterly convinced that there are. In speaking, it's not necessary, but since you're writing an essay, I would strongly recommend you to say, I'm utterly convinced that there are lots of advantages. Okay, Ivan, nowadays we spend a tremendous amount of hours online, and computer technologies are very important for modern society. Okay, maybe for the modern society. To my mind, it sounds better if you say the modern society. Many people many people are looking for new technologies to achieve their ideas and dreams. I don't quite understand. Many people are looking for, that's probably what you mean. Many people are looking for new technologies to achieve their ideas and dreams. Okay, right. Maybe are looking at new technologies. I tend to think that computer technologies will rise dramatically in the next decades. Or in the following decades. So for example, this year, last year, next year, there is no preposition, but here you can say in the next decades. However, we have to be sure that we do not depend on them too much. Okay, in this essay, I'm going to discuss this topic. The last sentence is useless. It just doesn't add anything. I don't recommend to use it. It's an empty sentence. So, however, we have to be sure. Okay, Okay, that we do not depend. We have to be sure sounds a little bit too spoken. Maybe we have to be confident if you say that. Or we need to assure that we do not depend. Right. Or we do not depend on them, for example, excessively instead of too much, because too much is very spoken. You can say excessively, чрезмерно. It sounds more academic. So how can I change nowadays? So we can say these days, you can say in our world, but instead of saying nowadays, I mean, you can change the whole structure. Write it, oh, excessively, okay, I will write it. You could also say exceedingly, it's like increasingly, but not in this context. So as for the question, can I use nowadays in an essay? Basically, you can. The only problem with, well, don't forget to put a comma after nowadays. The only problem with this word is that 90% of students, 90% of IELTS candidates start their essay with nowadays. And can you imagine an IELTS writing assessor who reads these essays and here is nowadays, blah, 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 nowadays, blah, blah, blah. It's just a psychological thing. The examiner will be tired of these essays that begin with nowadays. And if you start it in a different way, then, well, it might be better. Possibly. There is a chance that you'll make a better impression. And that's it. But grammatically, stylistically, there is no problem with using nowadays in the beginning of your essay. All right, so those who are still writing the introduction, you can copy it into the chat box at any time during the lesson today. And for those who have already completed that, let's move on to the first main body paragraph. In double question essays, normally your first main body paragraph will answer the first question. So here it's, how do you think it will change in the future? You see, in IELTS essay questions, very often they use very simple constructions. It is okay for an essay, for the essay task, but I would not recommend to do it in your essay. Or for example, say more and more people are doing this and that. It is spoken style, but try to avoid it in your essay. Okay? So you will see some examples of spoken language in the task, but you will be penalized if you do this. You should say an increasing number. Well, here it's also, well, it's here it's different. We are becoming increasingly dependent, which is fine for academic style. So here is my example. Computers enable us to do a wealth of tasks that would have been unthinkable for previous generations. We can book online, book holidays, do our weekly shopping, The list of labor-saving activities is almost endless. Given the speed at which they have evolved and altered the way we do things, I'm convinced that this evolutionary trend is about to continue in years to come. Take, for example, the rise of virtual reality. We can already do amazing things with it, and as a computer-based technology, it is only in its infancy. It has so many practical implications, from improving gaming to providing training for doctors or pilots to handle real-life situations. As computer processing power increases, so will its potential to enhance everything we do. Okay, so basically here you need to answer the first question. You don't have to give two ideas. It can be one idea, an extension of this idea, an example, and a mini conclusion. That will do. Well, don't forget to express your opinion, because it's do you think, right? You can express it after your topic sentence here. So you have about 10 minutes to write your first main body paragraph. All right, so Ivan, computers can do more routine work at the office in the future. For instance, professions such as accountant or even shop assistant can lose the sense of existence. Can lose the sense of their existence will sound better if you use a possessive pronoun here. okay, can lose the sense of their existence because of the replacement by IT products. Or maybe you can use passive participle, passive gerund, because of being replaced by IT products. Rather than a noun, you can use passive gerund. It will be beneficial for your grammatical range. This means that, okay, or you could use a linking device and say in other words. It's just another alternative. It isn't better, it's just another. Which means this means that big companies will be more dependent on technology. Okay. All this makes easy to grasp the reasoning of supporters computer-based technology promotion. All this makes it easy. It makes it easy to grasp the reasoning of supporters of computer-based technology promotion. So there is that and of the supporters of computer-based technology. Try to use more linking devices in your writing, because it's good for cohesion, which is 25, cohesion and coherence, which is 25% of your essay mark. For instance, your wrap-up sentence doesn't have any, well, all this is kind of refers to something, to the previous text, but you could say something like thus, for example, or to conclude, maybe some linking, again, because you say this means, and you use only for instance, there's only one linking device, which probably is not enough. Try to use more. You can watch my video lesson on using linking devices in the online learning system if you wish. There are some examples of it. But as for the rest, it's fine. Okay, so Natalies variant, no doubt that if you write it like this, you don't need a comma before that. You could say undoubtedly and then put a comma, or undeniably without that. But if you say no doubt that scientists have killed themselves to invent and improve computer technologies, which finally can be spotted in every part of the modern life. Nevertheless, this essay is devoted to prove the idea that disadvantages are going to not you say outweigh. The verb is to outweigh. I will spell it for you. It's not over, it's outweigh the disadvantages of computer invasion. So are going to outweigh the advantages of computer invasion. Computer will be like an adjective, like bus driver. You don't say buses driver, just bus driver, tablespoon, and so on. Computer invasion. Okay. Okay, so Ivan, recently our life, or you can say our lives in plural, it sounds a bit better. Our lives became easier. You don't need to say more before easier. Easier because it consists of two syllables and it ends with y. That's why it's easier, the easiest, because of computers, not because of computers in general. So recently our life has become easier because of computers. If you want to make it more complex, you could say has become considerably easier or significantly easier. Okay, now we can make acquaintances online. Okay, we have conversations. Don't use "a" before plural nouns. We have conversations easily with people from all over the world. From all over the world. Or you can say from around the globe. There is another. I'll write it for you. From around the globe. Or from all over the world. It's also possible. Okay. And there is more and more. More and more it's spoken language. And this number is increasing, this academic. If say more and more people, it's spoken, but the number is increasing, its academic style. In other words, computers developed impressively, or have developed, present perfect. In other words, computers have developed impressively in last decades, and technologies are not only very important specter of our life, but also they have a big future in our world. Okay, why don't you put not only in the beginning, and then you will have inversion. So not only are technologies, in last decades, not only are technologies a very important specter or sphere, or not only are technologies, again, instead of very important, it's better to use some higher level words like vital, significant, paramount, okay? So try to avoid very important, both in writing and speaking. You could say, for instance, vital or crucial. Okay, vital or crucial. They're synonyms for. There are many more, but these are two examples of synonyms for very important. Try not to say that, because if you say very important, just try not to say very at all. If you say very, it means your language is limited. I mean, your vocabulary is limited. When it's very big, you can say enormous, for example. When it's very cold, you can say freezing. When something is very funny, you can say hilarious, and so on. So for every adjective, when it's very plus adjective, there is another bookish word. If you can say it, try to say it, because it will show that you know this word. If you say very big, very small, very interesting, very important, it means that you just use very simple vocabulary. It's not a problem with style, but it's a problem with your vocabulary range. Okay, so of our lives, but also they have a big future. Try to use inversion here. All right, so Vitaly, to begin with, using computers helps us to decide a significant, oh no, it's not decide, it's to solve. Helps us to solve a significant amount of tasks in a short time. For instance, a processor which has a frequency of 1.8, I don't know how to pronounce this, can produce, okay, there's a big number, that's billion, yes, 1.8 billion cycles per second. Furthermore, computers make it possible to receive supply and process large volumes of data at extremely high speed. Okay. Computer reduces the cost of all data. Maybe computers reduce would sound better. Computers reduce the cost of all data related operations. Data related should be spelled with a hyphen, defiz. Data related operations, including input. After including, you don't need a comma. Including input, output, storage, processing, and transmission. Very good. It's very nice for your lexical resource. Since you're a programmer, you know these expressions. That's great. Okay, so those who have written your first main body paragraph, you can move on to main body paragraph 2. Those who are still writing it, please feel free to copy it in the chat box at any given time during the lesson. So main body paragraph 2, it's about is it good for us to rely so much on computers? Here's the example that I wanted to offer. Despite this, there are dangers in relying quite so heavily on computers. So much of our daily lives is controlled by them that without them, modern day life as we know it, oh, sorry, 2 commas are missing. So modern day life as we know it would be impossible. Furthermore, computers store all our important data, and the risk of hacking exposes us to crimes such as fraud. However, I would argue that the technological advances made possible by computers have improved our world in so many ways. I believe that most people would argue that any negative aspects of computers are outweighed by all the benefits they have brought. Okay, now I have about 10 minutes to write the second main body paragraph. Okay, so Ivan, on the other hand, if computers, if there is no will, if computers are given new responsibility, comma, it can put our life at risk. To clarify, good linking device, they can crash or stop working properly at the decisive moment. What can lead? I would say which can lead. Which can lead to terrible consequences. Okay, you can also say hazardous consequences instead of terrible. For example, automatical pilot assisting crew during a flight can cause air tragedy with a huge number of deaths. These called deaths are called. There is a special word for deaths during accidents. I'll try to remember this. Okay, I'll try to remember this later. There's a special word for this instead of deaths that you can use by making incorrect decision. As a result, our life will become more complicated. Okay, fatality. So when несчастный случай со смертельным исходом, a fatality, that's a special word, which can cause a number of fatalities. It's a good word to use here. Okay, so Natalies variant. Firstly, it would not take much time to realize. Instead of much time, you could say long. It would not take long to realize that leisure time of our children has changed dramatically over the last decade. Not only have computers, spelling of computers, computers allow teenagers to pass their time in a more exciting way. You need an adverb here, but to spend their time in a more exciting way. Yes, because exciting is an adjective, and excitingly probably wouldn't sound very nice. So it's better to say in a more exciting way or in a more exciting manner. But also they have made the time less dangerous, as they have not had any more to come back late. They don't have to. They have to come back late. They don't have to come back late. You need to say don't have to and not have not had. Okay. On the other hand, sitting in front of computers in general, sitting in front of computers has become the new smoking, the new addiction, which is really difficult to overcome. Okay. Maybe the new type of smoking. Maybe you could say it like this. All right. Or maybe your metaphor is okay. It's just an example of poetic language. So Moreover, children do not spend their time outdoors playing football or hockey. They do not play the guitar as our parents used to do just 30 years ago. Thus, we have no hope to see our grandchildren communicating face to face. Okay, very, very interesting paragraph. Okay, so Ivan, on the other hand, impressive number of people, so an impressive number, a number of people, an impressive number of people are addicted to computers. As we know, many teenagers have, teenagers is plural, so many teenagers have addiction to, or better still, are addicted to. So a number of teenagers are addicted to online games and computers in general, and it makes them, you say and, which makes them aggressive or opposite. What do you mean by opposite? Or too kind, what's the opposite of aggressive? It's not quite clear. Let's just put it like this, which can make them aggressive. Again, if you say it makes them aggressive, you overgeneralize, and this might influence your task achievement, because it's not true for everyone, and you cannot prove it in your essay. That's why you need to say it can make them aggressive, okay? Or it can sometimes make them aggressive. Right. Another big disadvantage is that we store all our personal details or data, photos and videos on computers. Not that. It's general, on computers. It is not only a big risk. Put not only in the beginning of the sentence, and then you will use an advanced construction that is called inversion. Not only is it a big risk, okay? Not only is it. It will be much more beneficial for your grammatical range if you do use this inversion. The rule is that if you put not only in the beginning of the sentence, the word order after this not only is like in a question. Is it? Not only is it a big risk to be blackmailed, but it is also an opportunity for hackers to get access, not success. I think maybe you're writing from your phone. So to get access to our bank details, right? However, I believe that in the future we will have internet policy and we will feel more secure. Okay, great. So those who are still finishing their paragraph 2, you can do so. And for those who have already written paragraph 2, let's move on to the conclusion. Here is my example. In conclusion, I believe we will probably become even more dependent on computers, but that our lives will improve as the technology improves. Okay, today I showed this essay to a native speaker, and he said that it's better to say develops because I use improve here, and it's better to say just right before the lesson I showed it to a native speaker, and this was his recommendation. Develops or evolves. In conclusion, I believe that we will probably become even more dependent on computers, but that our lives will improve as the technology develops. While there is a negative side to such a dependency, there are many more positives that we can focus on. Okay, so Natalies variant. Despite this, there is an extreme danger. Vitaly, extremely is used after a verb, yes? Or before an adjective. For example, something is extremely dangerous, right? Here you need to use an adjective. There is an extreme danger, like a big house, an extreme danger. It's the same type of expression in relying on computers. Sometimes there are emergency situations of computer which situations depend on people's lives. Well, which people's lives depend on? Maybe that's what you mean. Emergency situations which depend on people's lives. Ситуации, которые зависят от жизни людей. А если от которых зависит жизнь людей, which people's lives depend on, or on which people's lives depend. For instance, turning off the computer led to the shutdown of traffic lights, which caused many car accidents. Yes, and maybe you can say, and sometimes even some fatalities. You could also use this word, but luckily no fatalities. Okay, so having looked at both sides of the argument and taking into consideration all the pros and cons of computerization, despite the optimistic forecast about increasing computer use, I am truly convinced. Don't use contractions. You cannot write I'm in an academic essay. You need to say I am truly convinced. that we have to control technology extremely carefully. Hopefully, our descendants will pay attention to this problem, okay? Right. Now, or will be able to tackle this problem, or will be able to mitigate this problem successfully. Okay, so Vitaly, in conclusion, it is extremely important. Oh, Ivan, did I skip your version anywhere? All right, sorry. Okay, so Ivan, in conclusion, I tend to think we cannot imagine our world without computers, and we depend more on them in the future. We will depend. Then, to try not to start your sentence with but. Instead of but, you need to write however. It's just a rule of style. You cannot start your sentences with but or and. Instead of but, you write however. Instead of and, you need to say furthermore or moreover or something like this. I'm utterly convinced that how everything in this world has a downside, as everything in this world has a downside, computers can create a crucial danger for people. Crucial danger, these two words do not collocate. Crucial means very important. A serious danger, maybe. How everything in this world, like everything, or as everything in this world has a downside, computers can create a serious danger, or can cause a serious danger for people. Oh. So, once again, I started looking at Ivan's essay, but then I moved on to Vitaly's essay. Sorry, once again, because I'm reading it from the phone, sorry. In conclusion, Ivan's variant. In conclusion, I tend to think we cannot imagine our world without computers, and we will depend more on them in the future. However, I believe that there are more benefits than drawbacks for us. You don't need to say for us. If you want, you can, but it's not necessary. Many people try now to improve a security. Many people, or a number of people, are now trying to improve security, and I think we will achieve it. You can replace "I think" with "I'm convinced." From my point of view, to my mind, in my opinion. It's okay to say "I think," but there are more complicated ways. Okay, so having looked at both sides, we have looked at it. Then Vitaly, once again. In conclusion, it is extremely important to understand a significant volume of using computers. However, I'm utterly convinced that as everything in this world has a downside, computers can create a serious danger for people, or can cause serious danger for people. Okay, so now Natalia. Secondly, high technologies have managed to penetrate into every part of economical, political, and social life of the whole society. For instance, traffic lights, bank accounts, online lessons. This list of computer assistants is endless. Okay. Consequently, in a few years or more, we will not be able to breathe without computers. But if we imagined for a moment that something would be wrong with electricity and all systems would be turned off, and the chaos would split everywhere, and all the people over the globe would be helpless creatures who would not be able to make a single step anywhere. Okay, and I think it's the if blah blah blah, and then there is we need some end to this sentence. Yes, it's a very long sentence, very poetic, but we need an end of this. We need the ending. Okay, so a lot of you have already finished writing the essay, so are there any questions for me? If there are any questions about essays, you can write them in the chat box. All right, if not, I will stop the recording.